Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Lean podcast. Today, I've got another guest with me, Julian Sollai. There we go, nailed it first time.
Yeah.
Julian's a top coach in the fitness industry, and I've done one session with him, and I'm a bit embarrassed because I didn't tell you about it, but my shoulders were killing me for about 4-5 days after, and I haven't felt that in a long time.
Yeah, but to be fair, you didn't have any food and you were jet lagged. So
We'll tell everyone that. Today we're going to be discussing how Julian got into coaching, a bit about goal setting, nutrition, and a few other topics. And I'm going to start from the top of, well, thanks for coming on, firstly.
thank you for having me.
And we're going to start, this is where I'm very interested in people when they first got into the gym and why you got into the gym in the first place. So where did it all begin with you? Pre-coaching, just getting into the gym, and how old were you?
Well, I think, well, first of all, I think, I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember Action Man?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to always play with Action Man as a kid, and I remember vividly like playing with them and thinking, I want a body like this when I grow up, you know? And even like I was, you know, obviously it was just a kid, but I think at the time I already knew that would have been my path to an extent. Perhaps I didn't know that it would have been my career, but I knew that's the kind of, body that I wanted to grow into growing up. And perhaps, like, I don't know how deep you want to go with this, but
Go as deep as you like.
No, because, I was actually thinking about it recently, because I think, because muscles for kids have they have a purpose, right? Like kids are attracted to people that are quite big and quite muscly because there's a sense of protection. So perhaps, like, because that's something I was reflecting on when it comes to like bodybuilding or bodybuilders in general. Like at the end of the day, we are building some sort of armor, right? Which is perhaps to protect ourselves to an extent. So maybe at the time as a kid, it was somewhat a way that I had to kind of project myself in the future as someone that could protect themselves a bit more. I don't know.
But that makes sense.
I think that's when I got the idea of, getting into bodybuilding to an extent. But I think when it all started with me after my recovery, so I think I was 18. That's when I really got into the gym properly. Obviously, like at the time, getting into the gym meant doing some bicep curls, some tricep extensions,
chest and arms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not even chest, probably just arms and delts.
Yeah.
But no legs, and then I got into proper training, like with a proper split and a coach when I hired my first coach, and this was 2015, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So did you have, you half touched on it, I guess, but did you have an initial goal? Like, it sounds like it's probably shifted from the Action Man thing to then when you say 18. What was there an initial goal, and has that changed a lot?
Yeah, I think it's really down to your perception of yourself and how you relate to a potential goal, if that makes sense. So just to give you an example, I remember in 2014, 2015, do you remember Lazar Angelov?
Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah. Or Ulysses.
Oh,
well.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was the time when these guys started to kind of become popular. Yeah. And I remember at the time, like, seeing pictures of Lazar and thinking, fucking hell, is that even real? And now I look at him and I think he's kind of small.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Overtaken.
Yeah, I just think like your perception of things change as you start growing, and
Massively.
also as you start to kind of expand your horizons when it comes to what is achievable. And so I think, and so I think, your goals also change. Initially, you might have, a certain aesthetic goal, and then once you get close to that, then you have to, look further ahead of what's possible. Yeah.
I definitely had a similar thing, not quite with those guys like Ulysses, etc. He was in the gym when I was with you, actually.
Yeah, he
and
was.
My mind was blown. Yeah. I was like, sod the session, I'm just staring at this guy now. Yeah. But mine was, and I've touched on this before, with an actor who was in the film Never Back Down. I don't know if you ever watched it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Cam Gigante, or whatever his name was. And I saved photos of him on Google. I was like, I want to be like that. That was one of the reasons I got into the gym, I guess. But then it only was years and years later that I look back and I was like, actually, I think I'm probably bigger than him. I think I probably look a bit better.
Better shape.
I was like, that's something that I wanted to be. So those goalposts did always shift without me even realizing it sometimes. So it is interesting that maybe I didn't realize at the time I had got to where I wanted to be, but I didn't stop. I didn't just stop there. It's more like I fell in love, I guess, with the process side of it and then keep pushing myself more and more. Because I think some people, they want to look a certain way and they think once you get there, that's it. But when you do get close to where you want to be, that hunger won't just stop and you don't just sit where you want to be. Or some people might do. Yeah. But yeah, for me, I wanted to push beyond that when I probably got there. So what have you got goals now with your physique outside of anything else? Like where do you want to get to with it or what?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because I definitely have plateaued a bit with my progress with my physique. And I think that's because obviously my focus shifted to more of the business and the coaching side of things. And so those became my priorities, and I'm the kind of person that gets obsessed with things. And so when you get obsessed with one thing, it becomes hard to like prioritize other things. I'm getting better at that for sure. But I think obviously I still hold myself to probably higher standards than the average person, but that's also functional to the job that we do. Like you have to look the part, you have to hold the flag of whatever.
Walk.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I haven't really been progressing per se. So I actually have been thinking about what would be a new goal for me that can actually not even reignite the fire, because like I love going to the gym, I love pushing myself, and I love the lifestyle 100%. But like if you don't need to grow, if you don't have that urge, then it's not going to happen, especially when you're not genetically predisposed to grow fast. You know, you have to just really put everything you have into it to actually promote growth. So yeah, it is something that I've been thinking about. And I think, you know, I don't have an answer yet, but I would definitely, it might be the fact that I turned 30, and I think your priorities change when you get a bit older, but I would definitely like to, not to get into functional training, but to have more of a functional body. This means that I'd like to do a bit more cardio, but still be as strong as possible. And I think for me personally, strength has always been a great motivator. Like, yes, aesthetics are important, but for me, what keeps me going the longest and what makes me the most consistent is having performance-based goals.
Okay.
So getting stronger is always, you know, what drives me, what pushes me forward. But yeah,
I'm seeing it a lot more now, especially online on Instagram, where we spend probably most of our lives, to be honest, a lot of the time. But I see it a lot more with maybe the guys with a big following. A lot of people are shifting bodybuilding into that more functional side of things.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
you get hybrid.
Yeah, the hybrid athletes.
Yeah.
Like high rocks is a huge thing now, isn't it? And that's something that I'm potentially looking at with my clients, of getting people involved in that side of things. So I think I'm at a similar point to you. So when I turned 30, I was like, I want to go into my 30s in the best condition of my life, pure aesthetic, pure physical. And then it's like, okay, well now what? So I've been in a weird phase, probably this whole summer, to be honest, of thinking, where shall I go next? I've got a love for the training, like you. I love the lifestyle of it, but I need something as well to kind of work towards. And in the past, that's maybe been a photo shoot for the business. Or I've never been into competing, and I don't really have an interest in it. So then I'm like, what can I do next? And yeah, I'm seeing all this hybrid stuff come out now, and a lot of bodybuilders that have been in the game a long time seem to be doing a similar thing.
100%.
I wonder why that is.
Well, I think it is particularly important for a bodybuilder, especially if you've been on gear.
Yeah.
Like your blood pressure as a default is probably higher than the average person. You have more muscle mass, and so you're more dysfunctional, because that's the reality of things. There is a threshold for which that if you go over, you become more dysfunctional than functional. You know, even in terms of being strong, like a clear example of this is someone like Jordan Peters, right? Up until a few months back, he had to sleep with a fucking engine respiratory thingy, otherwise he would die in his sleep. You know, that's obviously taking it really far, when it comes to you know, being dysfunctional, but that's how it is. And I think that's also why, you know, bodybuilders, especially bodybuilders, and then discover how to apply that obsessive trait to something else that is perhaps a bit less focused on their own individuality, and it's a bit more focused on the community. For instance, coaching. So all the bodybuilders that become great coaches and or great business owners would then probably start to switch their training a bit more towards functional training, because they also need it for their own health, probably more than the average person.
Yeah, it seems like whoever's gone for this first is sort of setting a bit of a trend now, because I am seeing it with like some people that I've followed for a long time, Rob Lipset, you know, those sort of people, even they're going that way now.
Yeah.
And you'd sort of think, oh, if they're doing it, maybe I should as well, you know.
Yeah.
You sort of follow suit in a way. But on a completely different tangent in a way, and just because I'm interested in it, this is a series that I want to do in the gym, but I've been too scared to ask people. What do you listen to in the gym? Do you listen to music?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, what do you listen to? I think I know for you, because I've seen it on your Instagram. Like heavy hardcore metal / rock.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't really like metal.
Oh, okay.
But I think what most people think metal is not actually metal.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably
no, I mean, you know, it's just, yeah. I obviously, like, it depends on what I'm training.
I'm the same.
Yeah, obviously, like, for a top set of a hack squat, I need something crazy heavy. I need someone to scream in my ears as loud as possible.
What are we talking?
Well, I love Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah. Oh, I've spoken to you about this.
Yeah.
I've got a leg day playlist that's got Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah. I love Bring Me. They're definitely my favorites, especially now that they got more of a commercial influence. So there's a lot of melody in their songs as well. I definitely need a melody, by the way.
Okay.
Like, heavy as fuck, great, but it needs to be melodic, otherwise.
Because were you in a band?
Oh yeah.
And what style was that?
It was more like, do you know 30 Seconds to Mars?
Yeah.
Not so much 30 Seconds to Mars now, more like 30 Seconds to Mars in 2005, 2006.
Okay.
So we had a bit of like an emo influence, but the music wasn't emo at all, actually. It was more like anthemic. It was quite a unique genre, to be fair, and I think that's why we weren't particularly successful, but I think that's why we had our own, you know, fan base, is because what we were doing was fairly unique. But I guess the band that is the closest to our sound was it's probably 30 Seconds to Mars.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then what about like a bicep cut? What are you listening to for some curls?
I think for curls or like arms and stuff like that, then I can probably like tone it down a little bit, listen to a bit more hip hop.
Yeah.
But like when you're, it's just the degree of the intensity of the single set. I think like anything that is super intense, hip hop doesn't quite cut it. It just doesn't. You need something heavier than that.
I agree.
And I think probably most bodybuilders will probably agree with that. But then everyone's different, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Touching on that, two things really. Weirdly, and I probably only really got into podcasts listening to them in lockdown, and before that, I didn't really know they were a thing, and I wasn't interested because I was like, why would I want to do that? Sometimes I've even caught myself listening to a podcast while I'm training, and an old me, I'm kind of annoyed at myself for that. So I'm like, that's not getting me up for it.
Yeah.
So it started when I was doing a bit of cardio at the end, and then it's crept in. And then sometimes I listen to the Diary of the CEO while I'm training chest. Like, what am I doing? That's wrong.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's just it does make you question, like, because essentially, like, the thing about the podcast is that you need to focus on what they're saying.
Yeah.
Unless you just put it in the background, but then you might as well just put anything, really.
Exactly. So
But
I don't know why I went down that route. But then I've got a client as well, and I'll give him a little bit of a shout out. And this is within my client group. We often chuck tune of the week in there that gets battered. It's not me that does it. It's by one of the success coach, Adam. And one of my clients, Sam, he listens to classical music in the gym, swears by it, and like Beethoven, whatever he swears by listening to classical music.
That's proper serial killer vibe.
Yeah. So you might be able to channel your inner demon with that, mightn't you? So I always find that interesting what people actually listen to. But I've got different playlists for different moods, different days, all sorts.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how long have you been coaching for now?
Coaching. Well, I started on a gym floor in 2014.
So you were PTing first?
Yeah. I was a PT first. And then I switched to online at the start of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. At the very start of it. But yeah, I quit my PT job in 2021. Yeah. Basically not long after I joined STI.
Okay.
So I think it must have been summer 2021.
I had a view that you've been doing it for years and years.
No, not that long.
I don't think I knew you were PTing as well, actually.
Yeah. I do think that it's I'm not going to say it's necessary or it's essential, but I really think it does help doing a bit of floor work before going online. And unfortunately, it's not something that a lot of people think about or even suggest to do. But if I was a PT starting out and I only wanted to do online, I would still probably work in a gym, even if it's like a local gym with like more of a private vibe or whatever, where you can just pay as you go. Like Muscleworks, for instance, is great for that. Like I don't pay any rent and I still see some of my clients. I still like to see my clients in person every now and again. And to be honest with you, I don't even charge them. But it just helps so much with, it just helps with building that rapport, and that relationship. And yeah, I think doing work on the gym floor, it just makes you realize what people really struggle with when it comes to executing the exercises, because it's not really just about the form. It's also about getting inside people's heads to create a passion for what they're doing and really connect to the movement. And I think, there's just so much. I think the majority of my content on Instagram, especially the videos that bang more, are actually things that come up from like old PT sessions or current PT sessions, as opposed to actually the work that I'm doing online. Funny enough.
Yeah, is that the ones of you in a wig?
No, not
We'll touch on that another time. Well worth looking at though. I saw you bring it back. Was it days ago?
Yeah. Because I launched like it's like a PDF, like an ebook on getting back on track after the holiday. I just thought he's definitely the best person to present it.
I fully agree in terms of the PT side of things. Like even just as superficial as cues in my head that I would use and I could visually see that people would click with it. That's something that's invaluable to me as a coach now online, that I know that if I'm telling someone to close a car door with their bum in an RDL, I know that's worked for them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they're things that I learned on the gym floor, and like say just mannerisms and just understanding the environment, I think is very key. So when was your first PT job then? And were you self-employed?
Yeah, I was self-employed. It was for the gym group in Watford.
Okay, nice gym.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? It's not bad.
Oh, really?
I think I started there and I ended up hating it, obviously, for various reasons. But I think moving on to different gyms, I think I worked in probably something like maybe up to 10 gyms in total, something like that. I don't know if it gets to 10, but it's definitely at least 6 or 7. But it was probably one of the best facilities I worked at, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, but I also think anything slightly outside London is probably going to be slightly better when it comes to the space and then maintenance and
competition as well, potentially.
Yeah.
I know some people that started off in gyms that had like 30 PTs in, and
yeah.
I mean, mine wasn't like that. I had about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Yeah.
Loads of members. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Do you miss it at all? The face-to-face PT side of things.
Well, because
did you see them?
Well, that's the thing. I think at the moment I'm doing enough so that I can still enjoy it and not miss it, but also I'm not tired of it. And I think it's also different when the client is on like a program, so it's inside a system that is much larger than just seeing them once a week or twice a week for a session. When you then meet them and spend time with them, there's so much more to talk about, so much more to go through, and also there's so much more that is already set up. This means that you can spend more of your time and your energy focusing on things that I think are a lot more valuable, not because the technical things are not valuable, but just because it's not really what gets you moving. So a lot of what I do when I meet my clients in person is just chatting about life, is chatting about them. And this is the stuff that I used to get apprehensive about back in the day, because I'm like, we've got an hour, we need to fucking exercise. But now I'm like, you've got your exercise routine, you're doing everything you need to do. Yeah. Like, let's spend time talking about real shit that actually motivates you and pushes you forward.
Yeah, because you've got that framework behind it, they've got that structure already.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what are some of the biggest struggles that you find with speaking to people either online or however you get your clients, and what's some of the biggest struggles that you get with people coming to you? Why do people come to you? What are they struggling with?
Well, we like our niche is intermediate, really. So it's we don't really train beginners. We have some beginners because obviously you got the systems to be able to help pretty much anybody. But who we focus on is people that have been training for a while and they plateaued with their results, because when you're a beginner, you can do anything and anything works, and that's the reality of things. But then at some point, it just stops working, and you have to get specific with the things that you do. And so those are really the people that we work with. So people that still go to the gym, but they're quite frustrated because they're not seeing the results that they want to see. And there's a lot of information online on how to get advanced with things. There's a lot of information online that is very basic, but there's not much in between. And I feel like that is definitely a gap in the market that somewhat we're filling at the moment. Because a beginner that doesn't understand technical terms can't really get educated that much online. But at the same time, all the basic information that you find online isn't enough. So what we really focus on, what we're really good at doing, in my opinion, is getting people passionate about the work and really teaching them the principles behind training hard with intensity, which I think it goes well beyond giving somebody a program. It's just teaching them like how to actually go to failure, how to actually connect to the movement. And I also think that is quite hard to do online, but
yeah,
we do like, we get them to film the sets. We do Loom videos that are quite long. I think our check-ins as an average, they're probably longer than the average coach. And, you know, it's something that, for instance, when I used to speak to like business coaches or other coaches, I always used to find it a bit frustrating initially, thinking, oh, this guy can do his check-ins in like 3 to 5 minutes each. Yeah, I'm like, I need 15 to 20 minutes. But and you could argue, oh, but people don't watch that. But actually, that's what our niche enjoys.
Yeah,
you know, and that's why they hire us.
Yeah, it is so difficult to get that. I'd say I'm kind of similar to you with intermediate, but maybe just below. Do you know what I mean? I'm like kind of around there, and I'm quite big on it and trying to push it with my clients at the moment, the intensity and intent side of things, because people just go through the motions, and it is hard to put across online. So I'm trying to push stuff to do. They get access to my YouTube videos and things like that, and me showing them how to do it, and live events that I was meant to have one recently, but the live events that I do is just going to be some technique workshop, but with, I'm going to show you how to actually push yourself.
Yeah.
Like stopping at 10 reps, that sort of thing. But it is hard to get someone to do that, I find. How can you motivate someone to get uncomfortable with their training? Because you have to, don't you? In order to grow, in order to change, you got to get uncomfortable. And when it comes to the gym, you got to push yourself. Yeah. And then it's a case of, and I've found it before, especially PTing in person. Sometimes you would see someone just start to struggle. Maybe I always go to a bicep curl as an example, but they get halfway up a bicep curl. I know they can make it if they just stick at that point, but they'll just stop straight away. I think that happens so often. How can you get, so you saying for you, it's you send them a video of, is it you doing it? How do you?
I think it's a really good question. Unfortunately, there isn't a straightforward answer, but I think that the most straightforward I can be is that you need to, in my opinion, just understand the person that you have in front of you, because everyone just functions and thinks and just differently, and I think a lot of it is down to getting inside people's heads, which sounds really wrong, but what I mean by that is just really getting them to understand, the power of what they're doing and what the power of how what they're doing will then influence a lot of other things in their life, because like training is movement and movement is life. But it sounds cringe, but what I'm saying is that like the way that we move, the way that we treat our body, the way that we exercise, it really does affect the way that we think and the way that we perceive ourselves and we perceive other people. And everyone, all the people that come to us and they have, their own goals, aesthetics or performance-based, they obviously on a superficial level, they come to us for that reason, improving themselves on a physiological level. But in reality, what they're looking for usually is something a lot deeper than that. And I think there's a component that has to do with being inspired, which I think works really well. If you can inspire your clients, they will push harder for sure. And then the other side of it is understanding the person you have in front of you and just really getting them to see, that pushing themselves beyond the comfort zone is actually an act of self-love and will get them much closer than anything else to what they want to do in life overall, just aside from just the gym.
Yeah, it's something I bang on about a lot is people don't realize the potential they have, not necessarily to look a certain way, but you don't know how hard you can actually push yourself, whether that's just within exercise or with anything else in life, like you say. And I always say it to my clients, like, you don't actually realize the potential you've got here. Like, just give it. You watch everything else happen outside of the gym as well. Like you touched on as well, everything else will start to elevate. I believe when you start taking care of yourself, you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You watch your work life get better, your social life, your family life, your relationship, everything's just going to get way better. And you've got to push yourself first. And that comes from you working on yourself, doesn't it? So a lot of the people that we work with, or the messages that I get is people lacking motivation. And I get so annoyed at the word motivation because everyone's too reliant on it, in my opinion, and feel that they need it to start doing something. So yeah, I get messages all the time and I say it to my clients, you don't need motivation, you need discipline, or you need something else. You know what I mean? Like, motivation's great. If you've got it, use it, but that's going to come and go all the time. Motivation's not going to be, I'm not always motivated to brush my teeth or get up in the morning, but you just do it. So how do you help someone, or what would you recommend someone that lacks motivation? What is it they need to do?
I personally, I actually think that motivation is essential.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%. I think you can't build discipline without motivation, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
It is true that motivation comes after action. So you should be taking action, and that's how you build motivation. And it's true that it's very unreliable. It's an unreliable source of energy, but I do think that it's essential. And I think when it comes to motivation, it's important to make a distinction between what you want and what you need. And I think you'll always find a lot more motivation, a much stronger urge when it's something that you're in need of.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So someone that has a problem will work to fix that problem. Someone that just wants to, has a goal, is something that they want, so much harder to motivate themselves to do it. So a good way to find motivation, which might sound a bit counterintuitive, is actually looking at your current situation right now and what is making you frustrated, and go deep into what would happen if you did nothing about it. And that's how you create a much stronger urge, because you project yourself in the future and you're like, fuck, if I don't do this now, I'm going to be in deep shit,
Yeah. I think that's hard to tap into sometimes, because I get a lot of messages maybe from guys that saying, I want abs. And I'm like, do you though? Do you know what I mean? Because that's where I probably would use motivation to say it's probably, for some people it is enough of a motivation, but for a lot of people I'd probably argue isn't. So I can get 6-pack next week if I skip this session or skip this meal. I don't, like you're saying, you got to delve deeper. Why do you want abs? What's that actually going to do for you?
Exactly.
And more often than not, when I do dig into that, it's then coming around to real things that will motivate you, like you say, as confidence issues or not fitting in clothes properly. Like say, you've got to find that little bit deeper, I think. So that where I'm probably saying, I batter motivation, it's because I'm getting people come to me with superficial things potentially that they want, which isn't bad or good or whatever. It's very individual. But yeah, more often than not, there's actually other things that they're maybe not thinking about or don't want to open up about.
Yeah, 100%.
Because going back to when I wanted to get into the gym, I wanted to be bigger. I was really small, scrawny, getting pushed off the ball easily in football. I wanted to be a bit bigger and stronger, but actually it was a confidence issue with me. I was massively shy. That's what got me to the gym, not, maybe if I do this in 3 or 4 years, I might be a bit bigger. It was, I didn't fit in clothes properly. And that made me feel like shit. So that's why I dragged myself to do things when maybe I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting topic, isn't it? And yeah, I think it's hard. It is hard to get it out of people sometimes, why they want to do it. But I really notice with people that I end up working with, that when they invest into the coaching side of things, maybe their first message to me or whatever it was, I want a 6-pack. But actually when you get the best out of them, it's when they buy into it, when they're realizing, it's going to be more than let's just go and get a 6-pack.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, like, especially if you don't have like a strong, let's say, self-development driven environment around you, it is very hard to be honest with yourself. I think the average person is relatively scared to look at what is actually making them uncomfortable, and also scared of dreaming big. If I never had a 6-pack in my life, and that is completely out of my scope of, interest as well, because I'm not interested in fitness, I'm not going to dream about it. Probably I'm not even going to ask myself why I want a 6-pack. And so this means that I live my life with this perception that things are not too bad or too good either. And I'm kind of a little bit numb. But, and that's what in my experience, that's what happens a lot when I do consultation calls. People tend to get emotional a lot, but that's because they actually find out, fuck, I've got issues, and fuck, I've got dreams, So actually my spectrum of emotions and desires is much larger than what I realized on the daily life, But that's how you start living, Yeah.
I think that's something I find quite a bit is either that fear of failure or fear of succeeding for some people, which is really interesting that I find. I'm learning more about it now, what makes people tick like that, and actually what it is that they are after or scared of. And I had it with a chat recently, and it was purely they just don't believe in themselves. That's all it came down to. I find it so interesting, that fear of failure and fear of success.
Yeah.
It's weird. But let's not get too deep into that right now. Completely on another tangent, but something that I wanted to discuss, because I don't know, maybe it is a little bit more open now, but for the wrong reasons, to do in the fitness industry with steroids. And I've had quite a few chats. I get sent videos all the time from TikTok and etc. about people on things like Tren, things like that. These people with incredible physiques, these 21-year-olds that have ridiculous bodies. And, you know, it's not something that I think people are particularly open about or understand enough. And what my worry, I guess, is that people will see the positive side from an aesthetic standpoint of what you can look like if you take X, Y, and Z, but they have no idea about side effects and ramifications of doing it. As an example, I've spoken to someone recently who, you know, wanted to put on muscle, perfectly fine, and then going onto TikTok, all they're seeing in front of them is people on gear, and they're thinking, that looks good, I want a bit of that. So then they ask me, what do I think of this? What do I think of that? Firstly, I'm not very clued up in it. I'm not going to say that I am. But secondly, it's like these things are performance enhancing drugs, right? So from my naivety, if you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right, your hydration's shit, your sleep's shit, if you're not treating your body like an athlete or to the very best that it can be, you're not going to get the most out of it. I don't know what you think on that.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So what I'm getting annoyed at is that people are seeing that as an answer when they haven't got this down. Does that make sense? Is that something you've come across with people that you've spoken to, or any clients that have come on board, or what you see in the industry?
I mean, I you know, in my experience and what I can see nowadays, I think the majority of the people on drugs in the gym are not actually training as effectively as they could, not eating as effectively as they could, and some of these are also pro athletes, to be honest with you. But I do think that things are much better than they used to be. I think there's a lot more like education is a lot easier to get out there nowadays, and I also think that the average gym goer trains better than a few years ago. There's a lot more information out there, and people are understanding things better. But I still think that first of all, people jump on gear way too early. Like, you've got years of natural muscle growth that you can utilize, and that's also the time where you can really learn to understand your body, because the moment that you start using drugs, everything just gets fucked up in terms of like what works, what doesn't work, and like you get lost in like knowing how your body functions, and then you start relying on drugs for your body to function, which is even worse. They take it too early, they take too much. And probably for the wrong reasons as well, as you mentioned. I think, and they definitely not explained what it means to jump on gear. And other than the whole health aspect of things, it's also the fact that they do create a lot of dependency. I don't think I've ever met anybody that's done a cycle and hasn't done a second one or a third one.
Is that because it plays on them mentally?
Yeah.
Because of the physical side of it?
100%, of course. And then when you come off it, you don't look the same. You don't feel the same. And even if you do a PCT and you come off things completely, it's not the same. Like, once you taste what it's like to be enhanced. You just want it all the time. And obviously, if you're a bodybuilder, you've got a coach that understands, you do blood tests and everything, you can manage things and you can do it in a healthy way. Of course, you know, I mean, if we put things on a scale and we compare recreational drugs with performance enhancing drugs, at least you're getting something constructive out of it. But you're still playing with your hormones, you're still playing with your health. So to a degree, your health will always deteriorate. And if you're at peace with that, fair enough. But you need to keep that in consideration, that there is a way to do it healthily, but you're still compromising your health.
Yeah. I think that's the thing for me. Each to their own. If people want to do things, fine, go ahead. It's your own body. You can do what you want. But I think it doesn't get looked upon what it's actually going to do potentially in the long run, and like what the ramifications are of doing that. But each their own. If you want to do it, great, go ahead. I don't care really. To a certain extent, like, your body, you do what you want. But the thing that I've been seeing is, and I just have a look in the comments sometimes on Reels on Instagram, and you see these young 20-year-olds who have done a cycle of something who look ridiculous, and all the comments are just saying what you want, and it's just going for that. It's not necessarily the answer. That's what annoys me, is like you say, you haven't learned what you respond to in the gym. You haven't learned how to train properly yet. Like, you haven't learned how to support your training with your nutrition yet. All these fundamentals where you can make great progress, maybe not as quick, but you can make great progress. Like, get that down first before you go down that route. It's not the answer. That's what winds me up about it, I think. Like, because it crosses everyone's mind probably at some point when you see someone like, oh, I want a bit of that. But I think maybe it's from a more maturity standpoint, potentially, of where I'm at now, and understanding everything a bit more, realizing that risk versus reward, it's not the everyday gym goer, the guy who is a bricklayer who just wants to look a bit better for his summer holiday. Like, it's not your job to look like that. So why are you putting yourself at risk potentially? Is what I think about sometimes with these people. Like, you see it with The Rock as well. It's his job to be huge. Like, this is how he's made his career, being huge, and he'll have the best doctors, the nutritionists, chefs, everything. He'll have the best of everything done for him. Whereas some guy who's a bricklayer who just wants to look good on his holiday in Ibiza, don't think you're necessarily doing it for the right reasons. And like, yeah, do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think at that point it will be best for whoever has the opportunity to speak to them to kind of understand where that discomfort comes from, because like, taking steroids is still a solution to a problem, right? So what is the problem? That you're not growing fast enough. But again, why is that a problem? Like, what is the discomfort that you feel within yourself? Because the issue with all of this is also that steroids is not going to fix your problems.
If anything, it can heighten it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or highlight it even more.
Depending what it is, definitely, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, anyway, interesting one. And like I say, if from my naive standpoint, if you're not mastering everything else to a certain extent, you're not going to get 100%. The full benefits of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've got a spider that's just landed on my face. Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere, or not as much of it as you maybe would want out of it if you haven't mastered the nutrition. If you're going out hammering booze 3, 4, 5 times a week, and then you're trying to do that as well, not a good environment for anything, I would say. Which leads me on to alcohol side of things as well. Am I right in thinking you don't drink?
I don't drink. No.
Yeah. In terms of alcohol from a physical and fitness standpoint, maybe with clients or anything like that, how much can alcohol affect training, progression, nutrition, anything like that? And yeah, what are the effects of alcohol, and why don't you drink? I mean, fair play to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't drink because it's related to my history, the way that I grew up. I had an alcoholic parent, so it just put me off it, to be honest with you. I don't mind like people drinking around me, but it's just not my kind of thing. But when it comes to, so for me, it's like just personal reasons, really. Yeah. I can't really answer, like, if you're asking me whether I would drink if it wasn't for personal reasons, and if it was just purely related to fitness, probably I still wouldn't drink, if I'm honest. Because I do think that it's just really not worth it. It's a simple answer, but it's the reality of things. So we know that obviously, like, if you go out and get drunk, it's going to take you days before you go back to normal. And this means that like half of your week is already fucking gone out the window, and you haven't optimized things as much as you could have. And you also spend probably triple the amount of time, if not like 10 times the amount of time, recovering from that short space of time where you felt good about things. But usually, I mean, we know this, from research, that usually people drink to forget, to not think, So I think a lot of it, again, is just down to understanding the person's process and why they drink, and find a more constructive solution to drinking. Obviously, if you have a drink every now and again because you enjoy it, fair enough. It's probably not going to stall your progress if it's to that extent. But if it's the case that you go out, you know, every weekend and you get smashed, then you've got a problem more than you think. It's not. It's normalized, but I don't think it's that normal, to be honest.
Yeah, when you actually zone out and have a look at it,
Yeah,
it isn't that normal.
yeah, exactly. Especially if it takes you again like 3 to 4 days to recover completely.
Yeah, but this is what I'm realizing now even more. And I'm not someone who's massively had hangovers. Like I do drink, but very rarely now, I would say. I'm more of just a social binge drinker is what I would say. I've never been someone to drink at home or I wouldn't finish at work and then sit down and crack open a beer or something like that. But I'm realizing more and more that I'm hating how it's killing my productivity more than anything. I don't massively get hangovers as such because I sort of tell myself I don't have one. I wake up and just crack on with my day or try to. But my productivity, creativity, which is what I like about what I do work-wise, is shot for a good 3 days after. And that's where it's not worth it for me. And whereas I've got specific, well, I don't right now, but I've had specific goals with my physique, I don't think it's worth it from that standpoint because I know I might feel okay on a Monday morning or Tuesday, but actually my performance is not going to be anywhere near as good. My sleep has been ruined for a good 3 or 4 days, and that now is way more valuable to me than going out and just getting smashed for no reason.
Definitely.
You know, and that I definitely think I've changed a lot. I don't know if I can say I'm going to stop drinking completely, but it's definitely not something I'm particularly enjoying at the moment, I would say.
Yeah.
But I work with a lot of people who do like it. And like I say, each their own. If you like drinking, fine, we can still get you results. But sometimes, like say, if it's every weekend you're going way overboard or it spills into the week as well, your progress is going to slow down. And it's not to say cut it out, but your progress is going to take a huge hit from drinking alcohol. Just, I think from a sleep perspective and how that can affect hunger hormones and things like that, the ramifications of drink can be huge if we're just looking at it from someone who wants to get in shape as such. But like I say, I work with people. I say you don't sacrifice your weekends. So don't sacrifice your weekends. But if you have a specific goal, there's time and a place to make those little sacrifices and you'll make such quicker progress, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Not necessarily cutting it out completely, but
no, of course.
You are going to make way more progress. So yeah, that's interesting to find out.
Yeah, and I think also like to touch on like normalizing things. Like it's normal to go out on a weekend and get smashed, but it's not normal to bring your own food or you know, whenever you go out and see friends. And I think that's perhaps more of the stuff that we need to normalize, you know.
I do think that's maybe changing a bit now.
For sure.
Especially in younger generation, 18, 19, 20, 21. Like with Lauren, who I've just brought on as a coach, she's 21. And a lot of her age group are so into the gym, which is awesome. And I do think social media has a big part to play in that. But when I was her age, I was maybe going to the gym, but I was going out every weekend. I was going to my mates' unis and going out. A lot of them now that I'm seeing, especially getting to know her and how her friends work, are so into the gym.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's happened for a long time, which is pretty cool to see. And you see it in the gym as well. There's a lot more youngsters in the gym now. And I think it was either a study or the paper or something like that said, I don't know what the percentage was, but they're choosing the gym over going out now at that age group at 18 years old, I think it was.
Awesome.
Which is, it's a huge shift, isn't it? Because I've grown up in an environment of you're weird if you don't drink.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it does feel like it is changing a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you see that in gyms and like younger audiences going in and?
Yeah, I'm not that connected to the younger audience. I
guess
think.
you won't get loads at Muscleworks, will you?
You do get some. Yeah. You do get some. No, but it's what we were saying earlier as well, isn't it? That like the average gym goer trains a lot better than before now. I think there's more information. I think the fitness culture here in the UK, at least, it's fast growing. It's been growing loads. It is quite big right now. And it doesn't surprise me to know that, you know, some of the younger generations prefer going to the gym than going out. You know, I think it is a very outdated way of socializing. You know, and it is destructive. You know, there's no other way to put it. You know, we're doing something destructive together. Feels good, but it's a bit like trauma bonding. You know, that's really what we're doing. You know, we're not doing something constructive. Yeah.
I think I can see it happening to me one day, just being like, I'm just not bothering. I don't know if it's going to be a day of, from now I'm not drinking. It might just end up happening, or go longer period without doing it. But right now I'm losing a lot of interest in it because I'm just not getting any benefit out of it. That's all that it is. Maybe I enjoy it at the time sometimes, but I don't know if it's for me anymore.
Yeah, I think once you start building your own life and you're happier with it, it makes it easier to like sacrifice certain things that give you instant gratification.
And that's, I guess, to go nice and deep quickly, I guess that's why the gym is such a good place for me anyway, is the gratification. Like with the drink, like you say, you might be suppressing something deep down, but or some people might be, but the gym, you're working on that delayed gratification, aren't you? Which I think is so powerful. When you know that you're saying no to something now for something that you want further down the line.
Yeah.
If you get to that point of saying whatever it is, you're saying, not right now, it doesn't fit what I want right now, but I'm sacrificing it for what I want later on. That's huge. That's huge. I'm realizing that more and more now. I just wish more people would feel that and know what it feels like, instead of choosing that 5 pints on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
You know,
they just need that motivation we were talking about.
But action first.
So yeah.
That's a nice way to wrap it up. I think we'll leave it there. But if anyone wants to find you on Instagram, what's your handle and where to find you?
Just at Julian.Sollai.
Look out for the blonde wig.
Yeah, you won't find that much of that anymore.
Not much of an appearance anymore. But
yeah, thanks for having me, bro.
Nice one.
Appreciate that.